Emma Watson was on an exclusive podcast on Jay Sheedy's podcast, and it was over. It's the longest podcast he's ever done with as far as the talent. 2 hours and 37 minutes. I actually saw the entire thing after I saw this one clip. But let's bring up the clip.
Okay.
And I sent it to you yesterday. But let me see. Stop screen. And let's bring on the clip in regards to her speaking out about where she stands with J.K. Rowling. Great. Let's bring this in. And the whole thing, the whole title of this, the whole podcast was the truth behind why I walked away from fame. Like she just stopped, I guess she stopped acting. And now she's 35. I can't believe she's 35 now. So let's listen to this and let's get Cameron's take on this afterwards.
I really don't believe that by having had that experience and holding the love and support and views that I have mean that I can't and don't treasure Joe and the person that I had personal experiences with. I will never believe that one negates the other, and that my experience of that person I don't get to keep and cherish. To come back to our earlier thing, like I just don't think these things are either or. I think it's my deepest wish that I hope people who don't agree with my opinion will love me, and I hope I can keep loving people who I don't necessarily share the same opinion with.
Okay, I have the moments after that. I don't know if you want me to bring that in or if you want to say something now.
Let me add this. I don't know what the moments were, so I'll respond to this and see how that relates to the upcoming comments. But I mean, what it is this. I mean, it's kind of tragic that she has to, painfully with her heart, say something self-evident that I hope we can love each other. People can love me if we have a disagreement on opinions, right? The fact that we have to say that in 2025, but I think part of the fact that she's even taking this time to say this is she feels safe to say that. 5 years ago, had she said those exact words, she would have been canceled by the overwhelming narrative in Hollywood and in Britain, because Britain was really where a lot of these conversations about trans identity and all that stuff really, took off in Britain before they came to the US.
Okay.
And so she feels safe to say that. I don't think she felt herself to say 5 years ago. That is a recognition of cultural shift. Remember, all those guys in Harry Potter, those kids had to condemn J.K. Rowling publicly to just keep getting work. She's apparently not looking for work, but she still doesn't want to be socially ostracized. So she's trying to thread this needle. Again, it's socially ostracized within the Hollywood system, because most people, I think a lot of people share Ms. Rowling's perspectives on this in Britain and in America, and certainly throughout most of the world, right? That is not the West. And so those are not the opinions of people in Hollywood and in high culture of London, but that's the shift we're seeing.
Okay, so out of context, she's talking also about, listen, I can agree, I can disagree with a friend and still love them at the same time. And if you watch the entire 2.5 hour discussion, it's pretty fascinating on, if anything, a young woman who grew up on movie sets. She didn't grow up in the real world, and how she's come to terms with that. And I thought it's absolutely fact. If you're interested in that, go and check out this whole talk. There are some typical, but I'm telling you, she was making a lot of sense. She's grown up a lot, Cameron. Now let me play this part here. This is shortly right after that prior talk. I thought this was really good.
There's no world in which I could ever cancel her out or cancel that out for anything. It has to remain true. It is true. And this is where this like holding of these, I just don't know what else to do other than hold these two seemingly incompatible things together at the same time and just hope maybe they will one day resolve or co-join themselves, and maybe accept that they never will, but that they can both still be true. And I can love her. I can know she loved me. I can be grateful to her. I can know the things that she said are true. And there can be this whole other thing. And my job feels like to just hold all of it. But the bigger thing is just what she's done will never be taken away from me.
Thanks.
All right. Thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's a continuation of what you're saying, but again, this is what normal people should think like, right? And what was how, as a friend of mine once said, who had a lot of controversial opinions, but he's a close friend of mine, and I don't agree with him on a lot of them. I passionately disagree with him on several things, especially on the Middle East. But the difference is I know his character, and he once said, you can judge people by their opinions, or you can judge them by their character, right? And ultimately, you have to judge people by their character. People have beliefs based on their life experiences and based on their journey that are beliefs. But how they actually behave is what represents who they are. And beliefs evolve and change, and or they don't. But the character reveals who the person is at the soul level. And that is something that we've lost. Now, I should say something that this specific thing is actually very personal to me, because I think I've said it on this channel a few months ago. I was canceled from speaking at a major film school because some people, surprisingly, I don't have a Twitter. I haven't had a Twitter account since 2020, about 5 years, right? Some people strangely had screenshotted comments that I made specifically on this topic that sounded in support of J.K. Rowling's position on things, right? And I'm a conservative religious Muslim. My opinion is a little more sophisticated than people realize. For example, Pakistan actually has laws, Islamic laws protecting trans people. They're defined in a certain way within Islamic law. And there's like trans news anchors in Pakistan today, right? And so Islam's view on it is a little more complex than people realize, but it's still more conservative than I think where the left is on a lot of these issues. And so I made those comments. I don't back away from my religious beliefs. I won't ever. And people screenshotted that and sent that 5 years later to this DEI person who had invited me to speak at this major film school in Los Angeles. The event was sold out and ready to go. The night before, they canceled it because they said you support J.K. Rowling and are anti-trans. They did this to me a few months ago. So I take this very personally, right? This specific thing. Because it happens.
Now, you think that by her coming clean with this, just saying, hey, I'm just, it's my friend and that on that level too, she's already being canceled by the trans community on different levels?
I'm sure she is. But the point is that people are realizing that that kind of cancellation no longer has the general cultural impact it used to. Mm-hmm. So it's literally like, water off her back. The person that canceled me at this film school is someone that I had conversations with that I don't think I'd had previous conversations with them that look, because I was mentoring them as a screenwriter. They wanted to be young and they were inviting me to speak at their university. And I was mentoring them and I was telling them a lot of their scripts were filled with this kind of stuff that I said, I don't think you understand. Hollywood doesn't promote these things and doesn't care about these things. You think they care about them? They don't care about these trans issues. They really don't. They pretend to on purpose. They ain't going to make your script. They're not going to make your script, right? Besides the fact it's not a good script. They're not going to make it because they're not interested in promoting this despite their words. And she's of that world, of the DEI world bubble, where she did not understand that that the cancellation isn't real in Hollywood anymore. So she canceled me from coming to her university and ended our friendship over it and ended my mentorship over it and got nothing out of it. Like, it's not like she's now going to be having her DEI friends reviewing her scripts and telling her how great they are. And her career is going to go nowhere. So she's going to live in a little bubble like these people do. But that's not going to, my life continues. My career continues. And so that's why I take all of this conversation very personally, because I just went through this only a few months ago this year. But as some people are noting in the comments, Ms. Watson, they feel that she's, now covering her butt.
No.
I think she's speaking honestly.
Yeah.
But I also think she's speaking at a time where she feels it's safer to do so. And that is the resonant thing, is that being canceled by people for whom that is a black or white issue of human interaction, that's no longer a social currency. And I don't think it ever will be again.
And okay, let me just say too, whether she is or not, this type of conversation and discussion needs to be supported, guys. You can't just say, well, screw you, you didn't speak up back then. Different people, different livelihoods don't have the luxury, and they made their decisions, good or bad. That's what growing up is all about. And I'm very liberal on this issue, but that's not the point. I'm willing to listen to all types of different, to discussion. This woman has grown up in front of our eyes. She's always lived on a set. It's not even a hyper reality. It is a different universe.
Yeah, it's the ultimate bubble. It's like Natalie Portman had that bubble. Like child stars that went on from there, they never left the bubble. Is she backpedaling? Did she publicly say? I believe the other young stars did publicly condemn Ms. Rowling. I don't know that she did. If someone can clarify that in the chat,
she did.
Did she? She did. Okay, then she's backpedaling. Then if she did so, then she's backpedaling.
Backpedaling would be like, oh, I made a mistake. That's not.
Did those comments suggest she still cared for Ms. Rowling in the earlier ones? I know that broadly people did not ever add that point in. So that's the backpedaling part, is that I can still love this person, because in this world, on this conversational point, it's black and white for many people, and you cannot love someone who has opinions that differ from theirs on this topic.
So maybe it's just a different definition of backpedaling, because backpedaling to me is like you're taking it back. What you're saying, she's maybe just grown up and I'd like to clarify some things.
Fair enough. Because my point remains that she feels safe to do so now. And there's some reason where she feels the need to talk about it now, because I do believe cultural conversation on this topic, especially in Britain, because the thing is, Britain is ahead of all of us. Britain pushed this idea, and then America adopted it, and then Britain pushed away from it, because they've been all these court cases now that now define women as biological women in Britain, right? The very place that started this conversation 10 years ago, 15 years ago, right? So now British culture is actually moving to the right on this faster than America is. So we have to understand the context of where she needs to feel accepted in her own community as well.
But this is a 2.5 hour conversation, and she's this is at the end of the entire talk, which again, out of context, it looks like she's back, like you said, backpedaling. But in this whole conversation, it's fascinating. It's a fascinating talk. All right, let's go on.
When I got the cancellation phone call, I said, would you like me to explain these tweets? I can explain them if you would like context. I don't back away from them, but let me give you context. So so I think it's always good to give full context of things and then have a decision on it.
Since corner, maybe she realizes she effed up by bad mouthing JK, or maybe she can see which direction the wind is blowing, or maybe she's just growing up. Sin, give what? Yeah, I'm getting a little frustrated, but that's all right.
We have a difference of opinion on this because we don't know what's
no,
we don't know what's in the
I get it. No, it's like we're so focused on just shitting on each other and dividing each other. Well, she started first. It's like, I don't care. This person's growing up. Come on. What if I was shady? I would have followed up and said, have you guys talked? That would have been great.
Sure.
That would have been great. Now, I agree to a certain extent, and as she is growing up, there's a lot in this 2.5 hours would have loved, and she talks about her mother, which I really like. I want to know, and she talks about dating and I want to know more about her faith, because that to me is more, because she talks about being a feminist and an activist. I'm just like, all right, you're growing out of that. I hope you're redefining what that means to you in your real everyday life. Now that you are a normal person, because that's why she walked away. She walked away from her career, from fame, because of J.K. Rowling. She was going mental. Anyways, will you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I actually did a quick. And get AI, Google may be wrong about this. When you said, I think you said, want to know about her faith. Well, at least AI, Google is claiming that she's a spiritual universalist. So very common sort of non-defined spirituality that is in Hollywood.
And I get that.
Yeah, and that's fine. And that can be that because it doesn't have a defined religion. It can fluctuate. It can be more fluid.
They're already getting Emma over this. Are they?
So yeah, meaning the people who have strong opinions on this topic, against Ms. Rowling, they tend to people in that position, political position, in my experience, tend to be very non-compromising, and from their point of view, they're fighting for righteousness and against evil, so they can't be compromising. I get it. Bhagavad Gita, yes. So she went on a Bhagavad Gita like spiritual thing. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's connected to Shidi, but because Shidi was a monk and now he does spiritual work. Seemed like a cool guy. I mean, it was listen to the whole thing. It's a little kumbaya-ish, but for the most part, I was appreciating where she was coming from. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Although I will say this, as someone who's a student of religions, Bhagavad Gita is a very important spiritual work in humanity. But I find it I have a little bit of amusement with sort of, American or European progressives pick up the Bhagavad Gita as this great spiritual text. And they always leave out the part that it's set during a war. And Krishna is telling Arjuna he's sort of, he's the spiritual guide for this warrior. Yeah. You go and kill those people. That's your spiritual destiny. I mean, that's the point of the text. It's sort of like, it's all about, don't feel bad about having to kill these people because they'll be reincarnated or whatever. So it's not exactly a pacifist text. And I find it very amusing that most sort of Western, vaguely spiritual people don't actually understand the context of the Bhagavad Gita. So it amuses me.
Emma's left the business. So in this case, which I think they brought it up.
Yep.
She booked herself the Shidi podcast. She doesn't have agents anymore. She doesn't have PR people anymore. She's, which I didn't know, but
check IMDb to see if that's actually true, that she doesn't have reps, but we'll see.
Unless she's lying, or
IMDb is often wrong. It's often not.
But they talked about this in the talk, in the 2 hours and 40-minute talk, that, like, hey, you reached out. We weren't even sure it was really you. You reached out yourself. No agents. I don't have any.
Well, no, that's she just has a lawyer. So that suggests to me that is true, because someone of her, she's still a worldwide famous name. And so she could be repped at any top agency in Britain or the United States. And the fact that she doesn't even have a manager, I do think she's left the industry. So yes, then she isn't feeling pressure from those representatives personally. Other cases, they are feeling those pressures very often. So you have to that's why I say you have to be careful when you judge what an actor says publicly. Very often it is a script being given to them to read.